Hey guys, Zach here, coming at you with part 2 of the video series that CC Media and I are doing, talking about the Luigi's Mansion series. So, CC Media, just introduce yourself again in case people missed part 1.
Hey guys, CC Media here, and I'm looking forward to talking all things Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon with ZakPak today. Zach, thanks so much for having me on the video.
That's right, we're talking about Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon today. That's all we're talking about, and oh god, I'm already gonna regret this. So without any further ado, guys, what's CC Media's thoughts on Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon? Well, let's get started. So it's basically going to be the same exact format as last time, same questions and all that. So CC Media, what was your first experience and first impression of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon?
So the first time I played Dark Moon, I will admit my first impressions were actually really positive. And looking back, there are still a lot of things I like about the game. You know, I'm not like most people to where I completely despise it and I hate it. It was a terrible direction for Luigi's Mansion and everything. Like, I totally see all those arguments, and I'm in agreement with a lot of them. But there's also things that I do like, or at least appreciate about the game. And so to explain very briefly my initial reaction to the game, I was about 10 or 11. I don't exactly remember when it came out, but I was around that age, and I was staying at my grandmother's house, and I downloaded the game. I set an alarm to wake up at midnight to download the game off of the eShop on the 3DS for some reason. I always got physical copies of games. I don't know why I did digital that time. And I remember, so midnight seemed super late to me at the time. I mean, it is pretty late, but I just remember being under the covers and being so excited to play Luigi's Mansion. Remember, this is also coming off of me having tried the original Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube a couple years back and being completely terrified by it. So I remember I felt like such a rebel, like, oh man, I'm about to play this scary game. And yeah, so that was just kind of funny. And then my initial impressions, one, it wasn't as scary as I thought it would be, and I think that's partially because the direction they took with Dark Moon, but also just because I was older. And then two, I had a good time. You know, I wasn't old enough to recognize how different the mission-based structure was to the open exploration structure of the first game, which over time I've come to realize is not as good as the first game. But at the time I really enjoyed it, and so my first impressions were pretty positive. But we'll get into more of the specific stuff and how my opinion has changed over time throughout the rest of this video. But for my first initial impressions, I actually really enjoyed it when I first tried it. I was pretty young, but I liked it.
This is funny, actually, because, because I've never really shared my first initial impressions. I don't think I've ever really said my initial impressions. I actually am in agreement with you. I actually liked the game, too, when I first played it. This is actually my original copy that I got way back in 2013. But yeah, my impressions were also initially positive. You know, I was like, oh my god, it's Luigi's Mansion, I can play it on the go, and all that. But it all started to change in my first playthrough when I got to the fourth mansion. I was like, oh my god, this is so fun. And then the fourth mansion came around, and I really hated the fourth mansion in particular. I hated the missions, I hated the mansion, I hated the freaking boss battle at the end. So the fourth mansion is where it really started to go down on the game. And then the fifth mansion, was pretty good, actually. But there's just something about the fourth mansion that really set me off when I first played the game. But no, trust me, I'm not scolding you for, because, it is so weird. Like, I don't despise Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon either. But I just don't like it. Because people who like it, it's a taste thing. Because technically it is a good game. It's just not what I wanted from Luigi's Mansion, but we'll get all into that later. Anyways, next up, what did you actually like from Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon?
For things I liked about the Dark Moon, I think there are definitely more things I didn't like about it than things I liked. But to try and think of some specific things, first off, I'll say I think the music was actually pretty good. I do like the soundtrack of Dark Moon, and actually the main tune is very catchy, and it really fits the vibe of Luigi's Mansion. I like almost the more kind of like jazzy, like saxophone approach they took. I don't know exactly what the instruments are. I don't know how that stuff works very well, but I like the music. I thought it was pretty good. It fit the tone well. What else? I liked I liked the risks they took in terms of visual design. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't necessarily think that fit very well with the Luigi's Mansion vibe, because I remember there was like an ice sort of mansion, and then there was like another one that was a different thing. I think it's better when they keep it contained to one type of thing for Luigi's Mansion in terms of because of how the gameplay works and stuff. But I did appreciate playing Dark Moon at the time. I did appreciate the different risks they took and the variety there was with all the different mansions and how everything kind of looked. Other things I liked. Let's see. I liked the cutscenes. I thought the animations were really good. Next Level Games, I think, is kind of known for their animation. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. I might be thinking of someone else. But their animation was beautiful, I think, like on Luigi and the facial expressions. And even though I wasn't a huge fan of how the majority of the ghosts had the same kind of personality and look in terms of like the main like small ghosts that you would find, not the bosses. Even though I wasn't a big fan of that, I did like their animations and kind of how their personalities were interpreted visually. I thought there was some like funny, cute, creative moments there. I don't remember the puzzle solving being as good as some people said it was, though. I think that's well, we're gonna get into the things I didn't like soon, but I think for the things I did like, I think that's about it, you know. And I think the mission-based structure, I was okay with it, actually, for the 3DS, because I understood, okay, 3DS is a pick-up-and-play kind of console. That being said, I don't know why they put Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS. I think they totally should have done Luigi's Mansion 2 for the Wii or Wii U. But the fact that it was on the 3DS does make me slightly more okay with the fact that it had a mission structure as opposed to the open, non-linear structure of the first game. Because the 3DS, you know, you're not going to sit down for as long of play sessions as you would with a home console. I think that's pretty much it for the things I like. Hopefully I don't think of anything else.
So I definitely agree with you when it comes to the music. The music in Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon is actually really good. When it comes to the mission structure, the mission structure is interesting. Oh, by the way, Next Level Games, they are pretty well known for their animations. But with the mission structure, I agree. Mostly, I think they could have, because like they brought the original Luigi's Mansion over, and I think the original Luigi's Mansion even is a pick up and play game, because you can pick it up, clear a couple rooms, save, because you know when you catch the boos, it automatically saves, then put it down. So, I think there are ways that they could have worked around the mission-based system because of how vastly it changed the gameplay. But I do agree that since it's on the 3DS, it's at least excusable. And hopefully, well, I mean, we're going to talk about this later, but hopefully, when it comes to Luigi Mansion 3, hopefully means that we don't see it anymore. It's poof. Unless they count the Switch as a handheld console, at that point I'll be really mad. But, no, I agree with what you liked. I agree. So next up, the fun one. What did you not like about Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon?
For things I didn't like about Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, you're probably going to hear a lot of the same stuff you hear from other people. The vibe and atmosphere wasn't as good, wasn't as like dark and gritty and creepy as the first game, and I think a lot of people always talk about that, but don't actually know what causes Dark Moon to be that way. And I think a big part of it is the visuals. As I was talking about with Luigi's Mansion in our other video, I thought they chose an artistic approach for Dark Moon that did not fit the vibe or the tone of Luigi's Mansion well at all, actually. I kind of like some of the things they did with it, in terms of the shapes and colors and stuff, but I don't think it fit well for Luigi's Mansion. If you notice, if you look at all the furniture, a lot of furniture is just really crooked. There are no perpendicular or parallel lines, really, and it gives off this more, I don't know what to call it, like a Tim Burton-y type thing, as opposed to just like, hey, it's this big, creepy, realistic-looking mansion that's actually scary. And I get it, the point of Luigi's Mansion is not actually to be scary, but that is one of the appeals of the first game. I thought it was really cool, and that's what a lot of people like about it. So that was a bit of a bummer for Dark Moon, the visual approach that they took, which I think in turn really affected the game's tone and atmosphere. I think another thing I wasn't a huge fan of for Dark Moon was the ghosts in general. Like I mentioned earlier, the ghost, I didn't like how the majority of the main ghosts had the same personality and look. They were like minions from Despicable Me or Rabbids, you know, like they just all kind of had a similar look and personality. That's not completely true for Rabbids, but you get the point that I'm saying. Or Toads in Sticker Star, you know, Nintendo just threw a ton of Toads in that game instead of making there be creative characters. I think the ghosts were very much like that here, but an even bigger thing about ghosts for this game I didn't like was the lack of portrait ghosts. Obviously, I'm not editing this video, so I don't know if you've already mentioned this, Zach, but I'm sure you will at some point. it hurt Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon to not have portrait ghosts. At the time, I didn't notice it because I hadn't played Luigi's Mansion, the original, all the way through, so I didn't know what portrait ghosts were, so I wasn't aware of that while I was playing Dark Moon. But having played both games now, looking back, oh my gosh, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon should have had portrait ghosts because they provided so much. Just like you have the mansion and you have the mission, like the structure of the game, but I felt like the portrait ghosts in the first game really provided a lot of kind of glue holding everything together because they were just so interesting and fun, and it was this awesome just thing to discover. And it also provided so much kind of lore and backstory that you could imagine in your head about what really happened at this mansion, what the people were like when they used to live here. I love that sort of thing. When stories aren't necessarily explained to you, but they're just like directly, but they're just kind of like given to you in bits and pieces. That's why I think Breath of the Wild is so cool, because with the memories and everything, you can discover stuff at different times and just explore Hyrule, discovering it your own way, to kind of building your own story about what really happened here. Dark Moon was missing that, or at least the first Luigi's Mansion had that, and I thought that was great. Dark Moon didn't have portrait ghosts, which was a big part of giving that to the first Luigi's Mansion, so Dark Moon suffered from that. Wow, that was a lot of crazy words there, but so I think just summarizing everything up, the big things I didn't like about Dark Moon: lack of portrait ghosts, the mission-based structure, and the visual design approach that they took with it, that in turn I think really affected the tone and the vibe of the game. I might think of more stuff after I film this, and I really hope not, but if there's anything big that I'm missing, it's probably just because I can't think of it in the moment. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the things I wasn't a big fan of for Dark Moon.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Well, what's so funny actually is when it comes to like the atmosphere and the vibe of the game, it's so weird that the cover art of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, it does it better than the actual game. So it's really, really weird. With Luigi's Mansion 2's art style, and I agree. Like the use of like more like everything's kind of like a square. Like if you look at like even in the Luigi Mansion 3 trailer, you look at like plants and everything, like would have more natural round thing. And you look at the spider webs in Luigi's Mansion 2. Oh my god, the spider webs look awful in that game. So like the visual design definitely took away from the atmosphere, and you compared it more to you compared the mansion to Tim Burton. I compared it to like Scooby-Doo. Like it's this very cartoony, very unrealistic mansion. I think that definitely took away from the vibe of the game. And with Portrait Ghosts, you already know how I feel about the lack of Portrait Ghosts in this game. It definitely took away from the vibe of the game. It definitely took a lot away. And yeah, when it comes to like what you were saying about like the lore and everything, having everything explained to you, like first of all, it made for some really long cutscenes stuck in EGAD's lab. And it also leads to a lot of phone calls or dual screen calls from EGAD. So it really did take away from being engaged. Because like half the time we were just listening to EGAD ramble, whether it was in his lab or via the dual screen. So it really, really took away from the actual experience. And the thing that I love, that when you mentioned Portrait Ghost and all that, is you are one of the people, a decently rare kind of people actually, who've played the second game first, then went back to the first, but still prefer the original style. Because like, something I always think, right, when it comes to Luigi's Mansion and its fan base, people who played the second one first, I always immediately think they'll obviously like the second one more, because of the fact that that's the one they played first. It's kind of like me. If I played Luigi's Mansion 2 first, maybe I would have liked it more. I don't know. But the first one has a very mystique. It's different. And the worst part is, right, I'm going to touch on Luigi's Mansion 3 for a second here. Right? As like Chris said, he played the second one, first, and then played the first one and still preferred the first one. And now we're going on to the third one, and it's like, well, which style are they going to go with? The fact that they gave us this game, if they're not going to give us something similar to this game, now that they've gotten people back into this game, it's like, that'll be such a tease, but that's in the next video. But yes, I definitely agree with everything you said there, Chris. But that's it for today's video. That's it about Luigi Mansion Dark Moon. So say your goodbye for this video, Chris.
Thanks so much for having me on, Zach. You guys can check out my YouTube channel. It's called CC Media, and I do all sorts of unique Nintendo-related content similar to Zach. So thank you so much for having me on again, Zach, and thanks, guys, for watching. Hopefully I'll see you all in another video soon.
So yeah, definitely thank you, Chris, for being a part of this. It means a lot. Definitely go check out his channel. He posts a lot of cool gaming stuff. When this is uploaded, I don't know if our video is up, the one we did on his channel. So if it is, or even if it isn't, definitely go and subscribe. It'll be on there soon. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, see you guys in the next part.